Welcome to today's session, guys. My name's Dan Markovich. I'm Head of Innovation at YBI, and I'm working along with a other team within the IBI to make the YBI Bootcamp a reality. And the purpose of today is to provide more of an overview specifically aimed at young entrepreneurs about the bootcamp. So the topics that I'll cover today will be the following. I want to cover and provide a bit of an overview of what the Global Bootcamp is, a bit of sort of background towards it. I want to cover the main timelines and key dates as well. I want to talk about the eligibility criteria and the selection process. And I also want to cover logistics as well. So what does it mean? What will be covered? And also to provide an opportunity for any Q&A. I'm sure people might have questions as well. I think the best format is if I just cover the various elements and the slides, and then we will have time towards the end to cover any questions. So if anyone has any burning questions, I'd say probably makes sense to wait towards the end, and then we can take all of those. And there'll be plenty of time to cover those. So that's the format that we're going to go with. You can also type in a question in chat, and we will keep we can keep an eye on that as well. So we'll be, you can speak by the mic or put your questions in via the chat option. So I'll start off with a little bit around the YBI Bootcamp. In terms of what this will be, this is a 5-day in-person bootcamp that will be held in London, week 17th of June. And what we want to do is bring together 30 high-performing, underserved young entrepreneurs. And we want this to be a broader, holistic opportunity where we focus on, connections, challenges and learnings, and then helping with personal development as well. I'll talk a little bit more about what we mean by underserved, but essentially a lot of global international boot camps tend to focus on entrepreneurs with very high sort of turnovers, 500,000, 1 million, etc. What we're doing is providing a boot camp that is in line with the sort of typical entrepreneurs that we support that wouldn't typically get an opportunity to go onto an experience like this. Tying it in with our global summit, so we have a overarching theme. So YBI will be holding a summit later this year, and this boot camp is linked to the summit, and I'll explain how. But there is a tag that's used for both, which is Generation for Change, and the bootcamp will be all about uniting young entrepreneurs as a force for good. So you'll see there will be a social impact element towards the bootcamp and the types of young entrepreneurs and businesses that we're looking to select for this. But just highlighting that the bootcamp and the Global Summit are interlinked. And again, I'll provide a bit more context and overview of how that's the case. In terms of the bootcamp, how we're designing it, essentially, this is something that we want to focus around bringing a group of 30 young entrepreneurs who can, work with each other, help each other, learn from each other, share their experiences, and also be able to access experts and other entrepreneurs. We want to really focus it on a holistic element. It's not just putting 30 young entrepreneurs in a room and throwing lots of technical elements around them. What we want to do is help them help each other, learn from their experiences, and also hear from other entrepreneurs like them who are further down the stage, who have made it, who have overcome challenges, scaling issues, and other elements. We really want it to be a way that they can learn from others like them and sort of receive a more holistic experience. So networks, personal connections, focus on challenges, and the way they'll sort of learn and think about those is from real life cases of people who have gone through similar things and have access to experts as well, and a focus on personal development and leadership skills. So a real holistic approach and not just something that is overly technical. We really want it to be something that everyone can benefit from. So when they come to the bootcamp and they leave, they'll have skills, connections, ideas, inspiration, and an ability to put that to work and apply it to their businesses and situations. So it should be a really fun, engaging, awesome experience for all young entrepreneurs. In terms of designing the session, what are the things that we are looking to focus on? There's sort of 5 broad themes. One is around crafting a compelling founder story. So everybody has a pitch or a way of communicating what they're doing. We really want to have that highly polished, and we'll have experts that can help entrepreneurs put that together and take it to the next level. There'll be focus on pitching skills. There'll be pitching components to this. Again, done in a way that benefits all entrepreneurs that they can use going forward as well. We want to focus on growth mindset. So having and developing a growth mindset. Challenges around businesses and the business models around growth and scaling. And again, we will bring, showcase, and have young entrepreneurs and inspiring people who have managed to do this, that will resonate with what young entrepreneurs are looking to do, that they can take stories from, lessons, and ask questions as well. And then the other element is focusing on developing strategic networks as well. So pulling together all of the other previous 4 elements discussed and around how young entrepreneurs can really think strategically around their networks and how they can then apply it, create those and use them to benefit their businesses as well. So that's kind of the core themes that we'll be looking to cover. And one of the things I also want to do is provide a high-level overview of what the week looks like. So the week is being crafted. I just wanted to cover the main context, what we're looking to cover thematically, and then we're in the process of just nailing down the experience for the week. So this is still being developed, but I just wanted to provide people an overview of what this looks like. So I'll put together a overview of the week. Please treat this as a mock for now. Some elements will be broadly the same, but we'll be tweaking some of those things. I just wanted to provide people with an overview of what the week would look like. So this isn't exactly how it is. It's how we are thinking about it, and we are working with experts to ensure that it's the best setup for that week. We'll have people, we're designing this, we're working with other experts as well. But I just want to provide a flavor and a taste of those 5 thematic themes that I talked about and how that could look like in terms of the experience for young entrepreneurs. So I'll just spend a bit of time just sort of describing the week, but bearing in mind that, this isn't the nail-down version. It just provides a good context and overview of what it could look like. So it'll be 5 days. Thursday will be around, okay, how do we get people orientated? We'll get people to connect with each other. This is not about sort of getting people to, in a competitive state. We will have, you'll see when I do the timeline, time before this, where we'll look to connect young entrepreneurs going onto the program. But we want it to be an environment that's safe, that people can talk and learn from each other. So we want to really set day one up around, entrepreneurs sharing their stories, their backgrounds, getting to know each other, getting to understand London and some team building experiences, as well as setting up the context for the day. There could be some elements of work and practical thing at the beginning, but the main focus is on establishing really good connections and understanding between young entrepreneurs. we'll have a day around calling it inspiration. So this is how we, will showcase and we'll bring some sort of challenges, lessons, and inspiring elements to the young entrepreneurs, where we want to showcase, young entrepreneurs that have gone through what they've done, that have succeeded on a great trajectory, have overcome specific challenges that will be relevant to the young entrepreneurs. And we want them to, tell their stories, share how they've done things, and provide valuable lessons to those young entrepreneurs. There'll be obviously questions that they can ask and learn from. So there should be really interesting and engaging topics, not, delivered by people like them who have gone through, that journey and are able to share, what they've done, how they've overcome things. So we're looking to wrap up those learnings, those sessions by that mechanic. We want to provide, again, time for reflection, thinking about, throughout the week, always how the young entrepreneurs can take what they've seen and learned and apply it to their story. There'll be plenty of free time where entrepreneurs can, cover any business issues that they have, time to sort of relax and recharge. And then we'll also be having things like group dinners towards the end. Also having and inviting young entrepreneurs, experts as part of those. So always rooms for connections, always rooms for learning and bouncing ideas and things around each other. There'll be another day 3 around we call sort of practice. So this is getting towards the pitch element. We'll have masterclasses on things like, emotional intelligence, leadership, negotiation skills. We'll firm up those, but there will be sort of more technical learnings around that, focusing around, okay, how do we build strategic networks for young entrepreneurs in a really engaging way? Where are they now? What do they need to do to take their business to the next level or to unlock specific opportunities? How they can do that? We'll have experts who deliver engaging sessions and can help entrepreneurs build out and map out exactly what they need that's relevant to each one. And then we'll do some practicing around pitching, around how they tell their story, how they get that message across. And again, we'll be providing training and time for young entrepreneurs to do that. Then there will be a session around what we're calling sort of jubilation, where we will have a friendly competition pitch. We will have a diverse panel. We'll have groups and cohorts of young entrepreneurs putting into practice a lot of the things that they've learned and seen in front of a group, getting amazing feedback, support that they can, take, apply, and sharpen their pitches and approaches. And then what we'll have is a later in the day, a massive celebration, networking dinner opportunity. We want to host a big event where we'll have a wide range of stakeholders, sponsors, and others, where we will announce as well the winners of that pitch competition. Essentially, you'll see later when I talk about the process, we want that panel to select 9 young entrepreneurs that will ultimately be taken to the global summit later in the year. So a really exciting opportunity. Again, it's going to be very transparent, very open, very fair, very diverse panel of expert stakeholders who will be helping to make that decision. And then the last day will be around what we're calling futuring, where we want that group to really stay together and connected. So how do we create a sustainable network, a group, and a connection between those young entrepreneurs that will go on after the boot camp? How do we use those times together to support each other, to help them stay connected? And again, we want to work with those young entrepreneurs to define that forward-looking element as well. There will be an element beforehand, during the boot camp, and afterwards. We'll look at, for example, coaching, how, the opportunity for each young entrepreneur to receive coaching, ongoing support afterwards. So again, we want to really use that last day to think through how do we maximize the forward ongoing impact of this bootcamp. again, just stressing that this is just a high-level overview of where it's heading. Things could change a little bit, but hopefully it provides a good overview and flavor of what the bootcamp experience will be like. Again, should be relevant to every young entrepreneur, no matter what business they have as well. In terms of key timelines and dates, right now, as you know, we have the selection process open. Eleanor from our comms team is doing a great job in terms of helping field questions as they come in, but we have a microsite available where young entrepreneurs can apply. So we're at the sort of application phase. We'll then have a selection phase where we will select 30 participants. We want this to be diverse, you know, across our network. We really want it to represent our whole network. So different geographies, different members, different breakdowns of gender, different breakdown of businesses, as diverse as we can make it to truly reflect, you know, our network. There'll be a process of onboarding. So whoever's selected, there'll be a little bit of onboarding beforehand. We'll have the bootcamp experience, and then we'll have the link towards the global summit, and then ongoing sort of alumni network sessions, which we will co-create with the young entrepreneurs. And you can sort of see the dates here. Open application, we'll have the bootcamp in June, and then around the October period we're looking at, we'll have the global summit, and then ongoing sessions that will be co-created in terms of how we leverage the alumni network of the bootcamp participants. So again, it's open now and will remain open until the 16th of Feb. So again, if anyone, you know, is in the process or thinking about applying, please do so. We've got a dedicated microsite, as I mentioned. We will select participants between sort of mid-Feb and the start of March. And again, we are keeping an eye on just making sure it's as inclusive, as diverse as our network is, to make it fair for everybody and to get a wide representation of young entrepreneurs. In terms of eligibility criteria, I just really want to cover some core elements around that. I know Eleanor and we have all been receiving questions around specific things. So I think it's really valuable to sort of cover a little bit around how you know, we're looking to select participants and who's eligible to apply. What we have is a couple of things. So one, given that this program, this bootcamp is the first time YBI has done something like this, working directly with young entrepreneurs, it will be in English this time round. So getting the translation to work and some other elements would be too much for this first session, but that's something that we're bearing in mind later on. So proficiency in English. And it's a 5-day in-person event. So what we are looking for is having this aimed at entrepreneurs and business owners within the impact entrepreneurship space. So we're, as you saw earlier, how we're linking it to the Global Summit Generation for Change. There is an impact entrepreneurship element towards this, and I will describe in more detail what that entails, but it's the impact entrepreneurship in its most broadest sense. The other element to consider is the businesses must be at least in sort of 3 years operation. So we're looking at, you know, if it's 2.5, 3 years, that's okay. It's not at the sort of early stages. What we want is entrepreneurs who already established a business, validated their business model, have evidence of delivering sort of project and things to the market already, that this is aimed for. So it's not that really early nascent stage. It's somebody who already has a business up and running, a bit of a track record, and they'll benefit the most from this bootcamp. There's an element of thinking and ideally, you know, having high growth potential. This is, again, a little bit more subjective, and I'll explain, you know, how we think about that. But we want somebody who's able to go to the boot camp, be able to apply it to their business and take it to the next level. And the other element is to, we want them to fit within one of the 3 award categories. And I'll explain a little bit more about what those are and how they're linked at our global summit later in the year. Essentially, there'll be a prize and award later, and the businesses and young entrepreneurs need to fit in one of those categories. Again, very broad, and I'll cover in more detail what those categories are. The other element is the age element. So Youth Business International, the youth bit. This is a sort of a hard criteria driven by the youth element, and applicants must be born between the 1st of November 1989 and 1st of January 2006 to enter. They'll be within our 18 to 35 range at the time of the awards. Again, this is something that is a hard criteria driven by our sort of makeup, what we mean by youth business, and linked to our donors and sponsors as well. So just really want to highlight that element, and it is a hard criteria, unfortunately. Some of the others, if a business has been running for 2.8 months, 2.5 months, that's a little bit more flexible, but there are hard criteria definitely, and this is one of them. So what do we mean by impact entrepreneurship? Essentially, that encompasses entrepreneurs with businesses that focus on things like, climate impact, social impact, sustainable impact, and inclusive impact entrepreneurship. So that, it's businesses that really make efforts to create, develop, and sustain business models that, pursue those social impact goals and are an integral part of the business, including their financial success. So definitely, for profit as well, but not sort of something that's just tagged on, but as a core sort of element of the business. So social impact in its broader sense. So when we talk about high growth potential, again, this is a bit more of a viewpoint that is harder to quantify. But what we're thinking about is, entrepreneurs that can come to the boot camp, go through the awesome experience, and have the future ability to, increase their revenues, generate larger profits, could be expanding workforce, increasing production, just having the belief that the business can grow in the future and scale as well is what we mean by that. A little bit more subjective, but these are some of the elements that we will be looking at in terms of how we make a decision around that element. I talk about what do we mean by underserved entrepreneurs. So again, typically when you look at these kinds of global boot camps and opportunities, they tend to be focused around businesses with very high turnover levels, $500,000 plus, $1 million plus, existing serious funding. This bootcamp is open to the types of entrepreneurs that typically our members traditionally serve and tend to get overlooked by these kinds of programs. So one question was, do you need to have £500,000 to be able to enter for this? No, there is no minimum sort of turnover level for this, but you can see the selection criteria that we're looking at in terms of impact, social impact, what we think is high growth potential. So we really want this to be, reflective of the types of young entrepreneurs our members support, and we want to select those ones that will benefit the best and have the best chance of getting the most out of this experience that they can then apply to their business and really take it to the next level. Cool. Selection process. So I've covered some of the key dates, how we're looking at the eligibility criteria, and then I just want to talk a little bit about the selection process just to make it transparent and easy for everyone to understand. What we'll have is just again, a link to the global, how we'll select people for the bootcamp. Those at the bootcamp, at the end, using the pitching panel, we will shortlist 9 participants across the different categories that we have. So we've got social entrepreneurship, climate entrepreneurship, and sustainable entrepreneurship. And those people will be flown to the global summit later in the year, where we will then have our awards ceremony. And I'll describe a little bit about how we will select the winner from that. In terms of an overview with some dates, so and again, how we will get to the ultimate award winner. We've got the application now live, as I mentioned, on our microsite. We will then decide sort of mid-Feb, early March. We'll have 30 young entrepreneurs selected. You've seen the eligibility criteria, the elements that we're looking at. As people send their applications, we have a process where we will, look at all of those participants. We want to keep an eye on just diversity, as I mentioned, from geographic, from sex, business type, backgrounds, everything, to get a really truly representative group of 30 young entrepreneurs. As part of that week, and through the pitching element, 9 will be selected to go to nearly a third to the global summit later in the year. What we will have is, when they're at the boot camp, record a video from the young entrepreneur doing a bit of an introduction and explaining who they are. And then we'll have a voting session on a YBI microsite. So members will be able to go see the videos from these young entrepreneurs and have a say in terms of who they think, helping select the winners from that. So that will have 40 to 50% of the overall contribution towards selecting the winner. 9 of the finalists will be flown out to the global summit. And then what we'll have is another diverse panel there. And the 9 entrepreneurs will be doing a pitch before the summit begins. But this will have a slightly different focus, something around how they've applied and the things that they've learned from the boot camp. And that panel will then provide the other 40, 50% of the scoring and ultimately select the winner. There will be a prize as well that we're handed out, no less than last time round, and we'll firm up what that will be. But as you can see, a very transparent process. And again, we won't know who the ultimate winner is until probably the day before the actual awards are given at the summit. And again, we will be working with our members, making sure the panel consists of experts, members, stakeholders, very broad representation, and again, should be very transparent and easy to see how the decision making and what the process is like. Also makes it exciting because no one will know. And again, we will be listening to the network and our stakeholders who will be helping to, ultimately decide who the overall winner is. Should be exciting as well, produce a lot of great exposure for those young entrepreneurs as well. And then ultimately, I just want to cover logistics. What do we mean by that? Well, we know taking young entrepreneurs away from their businesses isn't easy. So what YBI will be doing is essentially we will cover the expenses related to the bootcamp. So that means all flights from where the young entrepreneur is to get to the bootcamp to London will be covered. Hotel stay, accommodation will be covered. All food and catering will also be covered. Essentially, the aim is that bootcamp participants don't have to spend anything out of pocket to attend the bootcamp. They choose to spend by or some other stuff, nothing to stop them. But essentially, this will be designed in a way that the whole experience and the week is fully funded by YBI, and essentially they don't have to pay anything out of pocket. There will be times and opportunities where young entrepreneurs can engage in activities and have time to themselves if they need to cover any emails or work-related elements as well. So essentially, we will be covering the full cost, so to speak, any transfers, that kind of stuff from airport, etc. So essentially, the young entrepreneur doesn't have to spend anything if they don't want to out of pocket to participate in the bootcamp. And one of the things we're looking at is selecting young entrepreneurs, that can make it to the bootcamp week and can also attend the global summit later in the year, where we will have the awards ceremony as well, and have that final sort of pitching session. Final slide. That's just Q&A. So I'm just covering. This is an opportunity to ask any questions. I'm not switching slides, but again, the whole presentation, we already have an existing recording from a previous webinar. We'll share these recorded Q&As, add it to that, and make that available to everybody. What are the thresholds, Doge?
Apologies. I was just going to mention an earlier question that was around the financial success that we're looking for, and how would the entrepreneur prove this?
Really a good question. As part of the application process, we will ask for, your organization over the last, 2-3 years, your income levels, profit levels, staff levels. Again, it's not like a hard set criteria, just part of metrics that we're using as part of the selection process, as well as why you started your business, what impact entrepreneurship space do you think it is. There's a range of questions which look to sort of unearth, things like that. So it gives us an indication. And like I said, there's more flexibility in that versus the age question. It depends where your business is, geographically, which industry. So we're not sort of saying it has to hit these KPIs. We just use that as a basis of helping us to make a decision. Also, when you say high growth potential, it means different things to different people. Again, we are just using a sensible view of, okay, if this young entrepreneur with this business went to the boot camp, experienced this, can they go back, apply to their business and take it to the next level? What are the thresholds where, show you are beyond an early stage business? That's why we're saying with things like, years in operation, having launched a product or two, also looking at some financial KPIs, again, at a high level, just to help us make an informed decision. Again, there is more flexibility around what that is, where you've launched, what industry you're in. We just want to really differentiate from very early stage businesses or startups that are still validating their model, still looking to establish something. Again, there is no like super easy, here's a hard or fast line. We could provide one, but the risk is you miss out on people that are sort of on the edges or on the borders around that. So there is some judgment users, I'm sure you can appreciate. What do you mean by early stage? So this is, you've just launched, you might have put together your business plan, business model, just started entering the market, and you're looking to validate sort of key elements. Those I'd say are some of the more early stages. Whereas if you've been running for, 2.5, 3 years, launch stuff, you're growing, you're expanding, is one way of differentiating it. So it is sort of just trying to differentiate the earlier side versus already having a business, having run it, and you're looking to grow and to expand, and there's issues and barriers around that. So it's like, an established, quote unquote, relatively established business versus one that's the early stages faces slightly different problems and challenges. And we're gearing the boot camp to cater more towards that have been already up and running, validated it, maybe growing a little bit, and they're looking to take their business to the next level. Will you require a pitch deck as part of the application process? Not as part of the application process. We will ask simple questions about you as part of that. And what we'll do is, as part of the boot camp, look to provide an element of training around how you effectively tell your story. I'm sure everyone's done a pitch deck already. There'll be a bit of a pre-boot camp, during boot camp session. The pre-session will look to cater towards how do we get participants to meet each other virtually. There'll be an element of probably taking in some form of pitch that you have already that you can then work on during the session. But as part of the application process, no need for a pitch deck. It'll be sort of simple questions, some high-level KPIs. And again, I'm sure you can appreciate we are looking to use good judgment around some of these criteria. There's hard criteria. What constitutes high growth? There is more leeway around that. It's again, we really want to be transparent as far as possible. And I don't want to put hard criteria on some of these things because it might exclude good candidates based on a few sort of things where you might fall from one or other side. So I'm sure you can appreciate it's not easy to put those in, but we really want to be as fair as possible and let people know where there's like a hard criteria and where there's some degree of flexibility. You help elevate non-profit social enterprises with foundation business get to it. Yep. So exactly. So you could be a business with a good social element in it, or you could be a non-profit with also a commercial focus. If you're part of that impact entrepreneurship space, you're definitely eligible to apply. So you could be a non-profit or you could be a for-profit business, but with a social impact or impact entrepreneurship angle that could apply. You know, you could be building something using, you know, maybe creating sustainable materials or building something with sustainability in mind. All of that fits within it. I really want to share that it is impact entrepreneurship in its broader sense. And it's a little late now. How long until it ends? It's still running until the 16th of February. So again, we'll share the microsite site that you can access. There is time to apply. It's not like the longest application process. So please do if you think you meet the eligibility criteria.
We're sorry, apologies. I think you might have just found another question, but I think looking at the earlier ones, we've pretty much covered most of what's in the chat.
Yeah, which one, please? Yeah, if you mention. There was a question around the level of support from members. Some good ones around that. So yeah, essentially what we're looking for is for applicants to have had some support from a YBI member. And this is broad range in terms of the level of support supported. It could be during the early stage of the business, it could be set up and then you've had some coaching or other support later. Maybe you were part of a program. Some level of support is what we're after. But again, that varies. So some people might have set up a business, been running for a couple of years already, then gone to a YBI member, had some classes or had some coaching, had some mentorship. They were part of a program. All of that qualifies as part of that. But some level of support from a YBI member is what we're looking for. Do you have a special stream for earlier stage businesses? Not at this stage. Like I mentioned, the YBI Global Bootcamp, this is the first time YBI is doing something like this. We want to use this as an opportunity to learn. And going forward, we are considering other options as well. Again, only 30 participants this time round. There were certain constraints and things, budget design that we've had to adhere to. We want to learn from this and then think through going forward how we can evolve this. Ideally, we want to be doing more of these, growing that alumni and providing other opportunities for more entrepreneurs. We've just had certain constraints that we've had to adhere this time round, which has meant specific decisions around how to run it. You know, like I mentioned, translation is something we want to crack. For that, it would change the design of the session as well. So, but again, we want to learn from this, bear that in mind, because we want it to be as inclusive as possible going forward. So, yeah, we will, you know, take that on board and see how we can evolve it going forward. Any other questions? I've tried my best to list through. Feel free to unmute or type in chat if you think I've missed something. For us to become a member of YBI Search.
Hi, I have a question.
Oh, yes. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. See, I want to apply from Bolivia, and I think like what I'm doing fits very well with the profile, but I have not been coached by anyone. The only one that it's a member in Bolivia, it's Manca. And they are in La Paz and I'm in another city. So I was wondering if that's like a constraint for me to apply.
Yeah, good question. I think it would be. I think one of the challenges we've had is, do you have it open to anybody or through the YBI network? And I think given it's only 30 spaces now, we've gone in as being able to go through the YBI network, which is being through a YBI member, but recognizing that's not easier depending on where members are, how it's located. It's just one of the restrictions we've had to impose on this time round. But again, we are going to learn going forward and think through: is there, what does it mean going forward? Just 30 spaces isn't a lot. It's not enough for a whole network, if I'm honest. So we've got more than 30 members. We've got 50 plus members. So there isn't even one spot per member to be part of the bootcamp. So we've had to make some very hard decisions that way. But again, we want to use this as an opportunity to learn, to see how we can evolve it going forward. But a really good question. One suggestion: 5 places for early stage, 25 for high growth. That could be a way of doing it, but the sessions at the bootcamp are all tailored for businesses that are already been established. So if we had a different mix, we'd have to provide and change the setup of the actual bootcamp so that those 5 at the early stages would get more benefit as well. But again, I'm thinking about how do we evolve this going forward, and do you potentially have 2 types of boot camps where one is focused early stage, one is focused at a later stage. We just had to make some really hard decisions around what we choose and the ultimate impact and design of the session. Quickly, if you could describe the bootcamp sprint, just 3 words, what would they be and why? I'll get to that, but I'd say one is holistic, and by that I mean it's focused on your broad development, personal, business, not just sort of technical. We really want it to be holistic, super engaging. So we want you to be excited, learn from others. We will showcase other young entrepreneurs, other experts, people who've gone through that journey, and use their stories and experience and learning and insights to deliver valuable sort of lessons that you can apply to your lessons as well. And the other one will be just fun or awesome. Like, it will be a great experience to put together and have 30 young entrepreneurs going through a similar experience, learning from each other, learning from others, and staying connected later. So there's a lot that can be done there, but a really good question.
Tabang is well there.
Sorry?
We have a raised hand. Someone waiting to ask.
Tabang, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask around your member or partner. I mean, where we fed by TechnoServe in South Africa. So do we need to have like a letter of some sort or confirmation that, as part of the application, or will you reach out to them and say, hey, obviously I saw on the form as part of the application process, there's a field where you must choose a member. So I guess once I've chosen that, you will then confirm with them if, what not and whatnot.
Exactly. Really good question. That's one of the, also going through a member, they can verify that and also, be able to get in touch. What we'll be looking to do is for selected participants, have intro calls, to engage with them beforehand. And the member is also another layer where they can say, yep, they've been part of us, they worked through, they would also benefit from being as part of that. So it's an easy way of helping us to, with the recruitment process and the validation as part of that. So exactly, we will be reaching out through the member to make that easier for you as well, and to make sure that we select the best candidates possible that will get the most out of the bootcamp experience. Another reason why we've gone through members as well, it just helps that validation stage. Otherwise, if we were validating everything ourselves, not only would it take a lot longer, but it will be far more complex and difficult. So that's another layer of validation through the members that is easy on everybody, yourself included.
Oh yeah, sure. Thank you so much.
No problem. Really good question.
Hello.
Hello, hi Ollie.
My name is Oli. I was late in the session. I don't know if you have already discussed about this, but on the application website, there is this eligibility which says you must be receiving support or have received support within the last 24 months from YBI member. Can you please elaborate this?
Yes, really good question, Ollie. Thank you. So what we're looking to do with this bootcamp is to work with our members to help source young entrepreneurs. So ideally, what we're looking at is the participant, would have worked with a member of YBI within that time period, and the level of support can vary in order to be eligible for the program. So you can imagine there could be entrepreneurs who have not worked through any of the members, and then there's entrepreneurs that have received some support training through our members. What we want to do is focus those that have had some support through our members, because ultimately the program is aimed towards supporting and helping our members and those young entrepreneurs. So that's the sort of distinction that we're making. So there needs to be some element of support that can vary and be quite intensively. Like the range can be quite subjective, but what we're looking for is to have somebody who has benefit from working with a YBI member. Eleanor, anything else to cover on that point, or does that?
No, I think that covers that. Yeah, that's the main kind of reasoning.
No, just I'm Naval Gupta from Bharatiya Yuva Shakti Trust, India. Now,
Hello.
Your eligibility criteria is setup should be not less than 3 years. But BYST sports should be, that YBI member sports should be within 24 months. 24 months from 1st January backward, or any 24 months during the last 3 years?
Good question around that. So the main aim for the bootcamp was not to focus on the early stage business ideas. I think those that are about to launch or just have launched or in the process are at a different stage to somebody who's been running for, let's say, 3 years. However, if it's 2.5 or 3 years, there's a little bit more flexibility around that. So the age range criteria, for example, is a hard line that we can't alter based on our target audience and donors, funders, all of those elements. But if it's somebody like just under 3 years, for example, that has more flexibility. The main aim we want is to focus on those entrepreneurs that already have an established, validated business model and are looking to take that to the next level. So I'd say, if it's 1 year, probably not. But if it's sort of 2.5 years, for example, there is more flexibility towards that. But
no, just I mean to say the setup is in March 2020. And he started this business with the YBI member sport and completed in 22.
Yeah.
So whether this is not within last 24 months sport of YBI member.
As the support ended in 2022, it would still be that he was supported by you within the last 2 years. So he would qualify. If he received support within 2023 or 2024, then that would make him eligible. You see what I mean? Even if the report started before that, as you've worked with him within the last 2 years, then he would meet that criteria. Does that make a bit more sense?
Can I add to that question, Helena, just to clarify? Does that mean that we are looking for not just startups, but those who have already set up their businesses? And because if it's 3 years and then there's a criteria that says that at least for 2 years, the member should have supported. So is it someone who need not be a startup, but who's already running their businesses and then have been supported by the YBI member?
Yeah, Exactly that. And again, just to stress, the boot camp, I feel like if you're an early startup, you need a specific set of support, I think more intensive and geared towards a specific set. Whereas if you're an established business and you're looking to scale and help to take your business to another level, there's a different level of support that you need. And the boot camp is aimed at those who have already been sort of established, running for 2.5, 3 years, that have been supported by a YBI member. So that's the specific target audience for this. If it was those early stage or startups, you need like a more incubator type of program and different level of support. Hence why we're focusing on that latter segment of, you know, having a business for 2.5, 3 years that's been supported in some way by a YBI member.
Is this, I mean, the dates are rigid, or there is a sort of an outer, or is it flexible in terms of the 3 years, or it can be 3.5 years? It depends on the kind of the nominations that we put up. Is there any flexibility around that?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, Eleanor, do you want to?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say 3 years is more kind of like a minimum, but if they've been operating for like 4 or 5 years, you know, so long as you've worked with them within the last 2 years, then we can, you know, they can submit an application. We can look at where they are in their business journey and kind of assess whether or not they're a good fit for the bootcamp.
Right.
Does that cover it, Diane?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, oh, it has to be just 3 years. You know, like I said, if it's 2.8 years, 2.5 years, and you think they really benefit from that, if it's 4, if it's 5, definitely. We just want to sort of not have it at that very early nascent stage, because I feel like the level of support and what they need is different to what the bootcamp is aiming for. So we want just that cohort that has a business, it's validated, it's running, it has high growth potential. We really want to help those businesses be able to take their business to the next level through going through a program like this. So those elements have more flexibility, but things like age, for example, unfortunately are very hard criteria. The others are more, okay, it's kind of within the bounds, you know, we'll consider those. If it's sort of too early or too nascent, probably not. But if it's sort of getting towards, you know, like I said, 2.5 years running, for example, and they, you know, look promising and can really benefit from that, we'll consider it on that element.
So just I want to add, I was meaning that you have written YBI member sports should be within 2 years. That is for calendar year 22 and 23. If he has been spotted in 2020 and 21, then he can be considered.
Good question. Eleanor, what do we think on
because you have mentioned within 24 months.
24, yes.
So YBI member sport. That means he should have been spotted during 22 and 23. Yeah. But if he has been spotted, because you are saying his business should have been set up more than 3 years, then this is a little bit contradictory.
Yeah, so the length of time that we want the business to have been established for is to, you know, for them to see where they are in their kind of like business journey and their growth. And in terms of support, that's more to do with kind of like members that we know that we've worked with in the last 2 years, that they've gone on from like their initial stage of their business to seeking additional support to continue growing, which is why we had a 24-month period for working with the members, and slightly longer for when they would have started their business journey. So I know they are slightly different dates, and someone may have come to you just as they were starting their business in 2020, but we're looking for something a little bit more recent in terms of when they would have worked with a member.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry,
and
it's
one
still
more
not,
thing, you have it
I
related
mean, we've not
to that
been,
500,000.
just 1 second, Soumitra.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. Yeah. For example, if a scenario where we have supported a young entrepreneur and they are almost in 6 or 7 years in business, and they are right for the boot camp, and we may have worked with them because we work with all our entrepreneurs at different stages. Maybe since they are high flyers, we still keep working with them. So it's just not within that 2 years of thing. So we he or she has been supported 7 years back, and we still provide support as a high flyer to them because there's a lot of training programs that we give to them. Can they also fit into this?
Yeah.
Are you still supporting them under one of the high flyers?
Yes.
So if they're continuing to be supported.
That's considered. So like the elements of support, program training, like it's a broader sense of meaning from that, as in it's not just somebody who wasn't supported at all, for example, who's able to join, but if you're continuing to provide support, services, advice, coaching, those, and particularly something like a high flyers program, then definitely.
Because all our high growth entrepreneurs are put into we have a high flyers club where we keep supporting them on an ongoing basis. So there would be entrepreneurs in the high flyers group who are been with us for 7 years, some for 17 years, some for 20 years. That's the kind of support that we give them. So if they are fit enough and they would be gaining from the boot camp, then you're saying that we can still nominate them.
Yeah, I think from something like the high flyers program, yes, established business, would say at least 3, some flexibility in that. More is okay. That we think if they align with the other criteria, for example,
age,
have potential to age, potential to be high growth, so be able to take what they've learned, apply it to their business, for example, and really sort of push on, then yes. And that's definitely considered support, something like a high flyers program or post early support, for example, definitely.
Sure.
We're worth also mentioning we have a I don't know if we can dig out the email for any other questions as well. So on the microsite, there's thing that Ellen has shared as well. There's opportunities where if anyone has any questions, they can mail to that. We regularly get emails and respond to them as fast as we can. Questions like you guys have asked as well, for example, hard criteria, some of those things. If there's any other questions, please do use that email. Sometimes, as you go through an application process or you're helping a young entrepreneur, something might pop up. And Ellen has just now shared in chat the bootcamp youthbusiness.org address. Feel free to put in other questions. For example, if something wasn't covered today or you need additional clarification, we're more than happy to do that as well. Deo, I see you've got your hands up.
Yeah. Good morning from here. Can you hear me? Hello, good morning.
Oh, good morning. Hey.
Thank you for the insightful presentation. I want to ask a question. My question is, in becoming a member of your global non-profit organization for an individual, what are the criteria? For someone like me, I like what you guys are doing, driving changes and impacting all across the globe. So what is the criteria, or what are the criteria for someone like me to be a part of what you guys do?
How do you mean in terms of what we mean by the impact entrepreneurship part?
Yes, and I mean on what you do on business, on entrepreneurial, on climate change, and the rest of them.
Yeah, so one of the big focuses for us as YBI is supporting impact entrepreneurship, sustainable business. It's a broad category. So for this bootcamp, what we've done is to try and provide different categories that we can use for those social impact businesses. So we've got a pretty broad set of criteria around that. So, climate impact and entrepreneurship, social impact entrepreneurship, sustainable and inclusive is all covered. So it is in the broader sense around impact entrepreneurship, businesses that have a focus within that are eligible for the bootcamp. And then we've got 3 specific, criteria where, sustainable will be one, climate will be another one, just to further subdivide those. But it's the impact entrepreneurship in its broader sense, and having businesses that, you could be non-for-profit, it could be for-profit as well, in terms of we want those businesses to be sustainable. We want them to be able to go to this bootcamp, help them grow as well, and, help them thrive. And also by them thriving, also increasing the positive impact that they do. That's the sort of thinking behind that. But if the business has social impact embedded within the overall business model, then yeah, definitely that's enough of a criteria to be eligible for the bootcamp. And then putting in which category will hopefully be relatively easy to do on the application form. If there's any questions or any doubt, you can ask us, but it is the broader social impact that is being covered as part of a criteria for this.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
I have a small query about it. You have under the condition and the criteria, what you have been saying it as 500,000. That is the number, and so how rigid or how can it be fixable for that particular amount?
Oh, sorry, your audio just broke up a little bit for us. Can you please repeat that again? I think.
Okay, repeat. I'm saying you are putting up a condition and a criteria in terms of a financial for entrepreneur that needs to be $500,000.
No.
That is what is we put up. If you one of your presentation also have the same thing mentioned.
Yes. So what I've said
I
is,
just want to have a confirmation.
Yes, definitely. Just to confirm, so there is no. I'll share the slide as well, just to avoid any confusion. So what we're saying is the bootcamp.
I don't know the details. Okay.
Yeah, the bootcamp, typically this kind of experience tends to be for those businesses that have a very high turnover. But what we're saying is that what we want to do is support. We've said this bootcamp is for the underserved entrepreneurs. And what we want to do is make the distinction that typical programs like this focus on those entrepreneurs that have a high revenue turnover. It could be $500,000 or more of $1 million. This doesn't apply for this bootcamp. A lot of our members support young entrepreneurs that typically don't have those range. So this isn't a hard criteria. This is just saying typical programs like this tend to focus on those segments. This isn't it. We really want this to focus on. So that's what we mean by underserved. It's basically, being able to typically access a program like this. So that isn't there is no hard criteria. We just say we want there to be high growth potential. So they could be starting from a specific base, and actually through going through the program, the extra support, they could help take their business to another level. So it's not that. The 500 plus was just used as a comparison to typical other international bootcamp programs where they ask for high turnover, a crack team, Series A funding, and then you can go to this program. What we're saying is that doesn't apply here, but it's to reflect the types of entrepreneurs that our members support, which typically isn't in that camp. But really good question. And we've had that before, and I know Eleanor and I have always tried to stress, it's not 500K, definitely. Aruna, I see you put your hand up.
Yep. What are the specific award categories that you have?
Good question. I think it was. Look, I think it was.
It is also, just for everyone's reference, if any of this you don't remember it after the call, it is also on the website. Let me just pop the link in the chat, but it's social entrepreneurship, climate, and sustainable. And the difference between climate and sustainable is to do with kind of the broader impact of the business, that it's more Dan, you could probably do a better job of explaining these than I can, but it's, climate is very much focused on a specific climate related solution that it's trying, you know, a problem that it's trying to solve, and sustainable kind of has wider impacts for end to end how the business is trying to be sustainable.
Yeah, really good point. So it could, you know, as Lana mentioned, climate, more direct link to climate, sustainable can cover how things are procured, sourced, you know, again, we have a real broad sort of umbrella around social impact, but whatever business will be probably, and if it has a social impact, will fit within one of those categories, and, you know, pretty confident around that. If there's any questions, again, please do let us know. But the main aim is to have social impact, not just be a tangential add-on. We really want, you know, if the business thrives, then it will deliver social impact as part of it. And again, very broad definitions, and there are on our website. If anything isn't clear, we can answer, and also Anna from our team, who runs a lot of the social impact stuff for YBI, again, can help provide any further clarification. So hopefully it makes sense. If not, please let us know any other questions and we can help with the category definition. But hopefully it'll be broad enough that if it is a social impact business, will fit into one of those three. Brilliant. Hopefully that's been helpful. Really good questions. Again, I know we try and stress some of these things, but the reason we are holding these webinars is to be able to communicate again and make things clear. Again, Ellen has provided the link to our microsite down below. Hopefully you found, you know, or been excited and energized. I know we are by this boot camp. So if you're thinking applying, or if you know somebody who's eligible that will benefit from that, you know, please do, and they fit within the criteria, please do, you know, get them to submit an application. If there's any other questions, you know, please do use that link. We are now in the process of, you know, we're getting in applications. We have a team that's assessing them against the criteria, and we, you know, we're waiting until we get all of them. So every application will be looked at. And again, we really want to get a diverse, representative mix of young entrepreneurs from across our network. And again, thank you for your questions. Really good. Hopefully, everything's a little bit clearer in terms of what we're looking for, eligibility criteria, that the sort of target audience, and the experience that the entrepreneurs we will have. And again, we really want to make the most of this. We're thinking about how we build on from this. How do we ensure the entrepreneurs stay connected and continue to help each other? I think there's a really exciting opportunity for everyone. And yeah, we're really excited. And a lot of, you know, people talk to our members are also very excited. So hopefully this will be a showcase for the whole network, and then provide an amazing platform for us to push forward on. We will all learn a lot, and we really want we want young entrepreneurs to benefit. We want our members to be able to benefit from this. We want everybody to be able to benefit from a program like this. So that's something that we have our eye on. And yeah, like I said, we're super excited. So thank you all. Any questions, don't hesitate to contact us via that link. I know some things might be more subjective, but that link's there, you know, to ask any questions that you may have. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time and your questions. And I think we've had this up just on time. So thank you all.